Welcome everyone to today's program, and I've got a very special guest today, none other than country music artist J.D. Shelburne. He gives us the best of both worlds as he rocks a crowd like nobody's business, and he pulls at your heartstrings with ballads that cut to the core of life and love. J.D. does both more than 200 times a year in venues ranging from packed clubs to huge festivals, and he has opened up for Miranda Lambert, Marty Stewart, Jamie Johnson, and Montgomery Gentry, just to name a few, and including sharing the stage with 50 national acts. JD has logged over 2,500 performances to date, and today we discuss his new single, and I think it's my new favorite song, Church Pew Barstool, and his upcoming new album, straight from Kentucky. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the Dr. Ward Bond Show, J.D. Shelburne. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, bud. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to doing this and chatting with you.
Oh, absolutely. Let me ask you something. I want to kind of step back in time for a moment and tell us what happened when you turned 19 years old and your grandmother passed away.
Well, I grew up in a small town in Kentucky, a little town called Taylorsville. Grew up playing sports, and that was pretty much my life as a kid growing up. Never listened to music. I never played music, listened to music a lot. My mom sang in the church choir. But when my grandmother passed away, I was a freshman in college. I just moved away from home and lived in a dorm room. And I came home for her funeral. And like anybody would do, you kind of go through your grandma's belongings in the house. You split them between the family. What are you going to do next? And I come across an acoustic guitar that she had stashed away in her closet. And a light bulb kind of went off. And ended up taking it back to college with me and teaching myself to play over the course of about a year. And things kind of started progressing, and that's kind of where my story started.
Well, I read where when you came home, your dad had the keys to the church, and you would go inside an empty church, and you were really kind of, I guess, stepping out in faith, kind of training your voice and all of your skills just being there alone. What was that like?
It was a great advantage. I was a small town kid. My dad was a deacon of the church, so he had keys, like you said, to the church. And so they had a beautiful sanctuary. They still do to this day. It's, PA system, and I could go in there and plug my guitar into the mic and just play all night long. And when your dad has keys to the church, and you have access to that for free. And, I didn't really know how important that was in my career early on until later on in my career when I realized that's really where I taught myself to sing and learn pitch and melody and singing into a microphone. I really learned how to project into a microphone and in an empty church, there's, acoustics and there's great reverb and I was on stage in a spotlight. It was just a really cool advantage to have that most kids and artists that myself didn't have growing up. And I learned a lot, in that church. And matter of fact, I went back home this weekend to Kentucky to visit my folks. And I went to church, that same church that Sunday. And as I sat in the pews, I still think about those days, looking back, sitting in an empty church, teaching myself songs and wondering if I'd ever get farther than my hometown. And sure enough, it happened. Thanks to the good Lord.
Well, being 19, 20 years old, isn't that kind of late starting or getting into music? When did you actually get discovered?
Well, I taught myself to play in college at about 19. I really didn't think I would do anything, other than playing in my dorm and in my apartment. I lived in a dorm, and then the next year I moved into an apartment with some college friends. And that kind of escalated to playing, as friends would come over for the weekend or we throw little parties at our house. I would just sit around and play guitar. And then as I started playing every week, every month or whatever, I felt like I got better, learned more songs. And then I started meet people that worked at, bars, that worked at events, and they would hire me. And that's when I realized, man, like this started out as a hobby, but maybe it can be a profession. I was making money. And it was easy money. Easiest money I ever made was playing guitar and singing in a microphone and entertaining people. I didn't think you should get paid for it because it's just I had such a love for it and such a knack for wanting to play that it just came naturally. And over the course of from about 2002 to about 2004, I really played a lot of local shows. I did a lot of open mics for free just to get out there and get in front of people. I felt practice was everything, and if I could get in front of people to play, and I just loved it. And those things kind of escalated to people finding out back home that I played. They'd hire me for their events. And I can't tell you how many times I played events for people that were running for the mayor, for the sheriff, for the police. I played for them all, but I loved it. And that's kind of where I got my start.
Well, there's nothing wrong playing for the dog catcher. I've heard those stories too.
Oh, yeah. Hey, as long as they're paying, I'm playing, man.
Well, what really drew you to playing that guitar that you found at your grandmother's house?
I think it was just, I always had a little knack for music, for singing, because I would sing to the radio, and I felt like I would always sing on pitch. And I tell you another thing that I always thought that really stood out to me was, if you gave me an album back when I was a kid, I could pick the singles off that album before the radio even had them. And I felt like I had an ear for a good song, and I combine all those things, and I love just learning songs, and I got to say the girls loved it. But all the girls in college, they loved it, so they'd come over and they'd all want to hear me play and sing, and the little things like that all kind of into one shell, man, really kind of molded me to give it more of a thought rather than just a hobby. And when I realized I could actually make a little money as a college kid, because in college we're all broke, and trying to make ends meet, and it would help me give a little extra spending money, and I just loved it. And the more I played, the more people I met, and I just found that is very rewarding. I just love the slow climb of trying to get to the next level. Each month I'd find, man, I wish I could play that show. Then I'd get that show, and then I'd hear a big event across town, and I'd want to play that. Then I'd get that 6 months down the road. So each year I would just climb a little bit farther up, and I just love that motivation of trying to get to the next level. And it's just that's kind of where I got started.
Well, how did you get discovered and then end up with having a record deal?
Well, I play so many shows. I started out. That's really all I started from, just touring and meeting fans. I didn't really have anybody in my family that played music. My dad wasn't a star. I didn't come from a family that was just going to throw me $1 million in the back pocket and say, go to Nashville and buy your way in. I didn't have that. And I just like to play shows. And so I've been really the artist that's been known just to tour. And I've played so many shows and built such a great fan base that I feel like that's how I got in the door,
Wow.
and I can't tell you how many hands have shaked, and have people I've talked to that's told me their music has touched their lives. And, you fast forward, that was in 2002 when I discovered guitar. I moved to Nashville in 2008. And when I got to Nashville, that's when things really started to happen. I really started getting better gigs, better players. And I really started, kind of making a name for myself all on my own. And that started from just burning the pavement up and playing shows.
Well, I love the story because I love it when people put in that hard work. It's and hard work is, especially in the music business, is everything is a step of faith, and you don't know where it's going to lead to. You pray for the right connections. Someone like you didn't buy their way in, and I'm not going to say that's bad. There may be some good artists that do that, and there may be some we may know that are not that great, but I love the hard work ethic, and I think that just builds the story, and at the same time, I think it adds to the creativity and the talent to write real songs, and that's what I love about this brand new single of yours. When I first heard it, I actually watched the music video of Church Pew Barstool. I wanted to watch it and not just hear it, and the visual of that video brings that whole song to life. So now when I listen to the song, that I have it on my phone now, when I listen to it without the video, you still remember it's almost like I remember every scene in that music video. So where did this song, Church Pew Barstool, come from?
Well, my old neighbor, Mark Nessler, who's a very big time songwriter in Nashville, very successful, has written, several big hits for George Strait, Keith Urban. We happened to live next door beside each other back about 4 years ago, and we became friends and realized who he was. And he kind of took me under his wing and taught me how to write a good song, and helped me introduce, to more of the songwriting community, people that had hits, people that were very successful, that were really hard to get in the door without being, knowing somebody to get you there.
Oh, yeah.
Mark was that guy that really, really kind of bridged the gap for me. And he wrote this song, and he gave me a demo of a bunch of stuff when I was cutting. And the second I heard the song, I was like, gosh, man, what a powerful song. COVID had just started, and the whole pandemic was starting to shut down the country. And I was like, man, so many people are either going to church or going to the bar. And, and it's just like this song really I just love the way this song just depicted life, of how people, people live this song.
Oh,
and
yeah. I mean,
started.
Yeah. Well, let me say this, because I watched the video I think I watched the video, I know two times. Then I had other people that said, hey, come into my office. I want you to watch this music video. I said, I'm going to interview this gentleman, and I want you to watch, because I was so taken back and I guess so absorbed into it. But the more I watched it and others watched it, I realized something about the video. And I love the parallel of the church and the bar, because it's two places that people take their troubles to. Was that the whole idea of the song?
It was, and that's why I like the song so much, because it was such a true song and people could relate to it. And you know, when I first got the song and I started testing it on my Facebook Lives, and this song came out. Well, I recorded this song right when the pandemic just hit. So I was playing shows, but as slowly as the months and days went on, I was losing shows. So I didn't really get the full effect of playing this with my band. I did a lot of acoustic shows with it, and fans would just come up to me and say, man, that song you played during your set about the church, what was the name of that song? And I'm like, Church Pew Barstool. And I'd played 15 songs in my set, and they would always tell me this song. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to record it, I think. And I was like, man, you should record that. Well, as time went on and I went to the studio to cut my record, I was like, you know what? This would make a great, simple video. And so I contacted a company here that shoots videos, and I wanted something simple. I didn't really want a bar in it. I just wanted this to be the focal point of the church. And I had played a festival last summer in Franklin, Kentucky, which is right across the state line, north of Nashville, about 40 minutes. And I got to know the lady, Amy, who's on the committee that booked me. And Franklin's a really small, quaint little movie town. You would think it's a town out of Hollywood. It's a beautiful little town. And I knew they would have a church for this video. And so when I called Amy, I said, hey, I got a favor I want to ask of you. I'm going to be shooting a music video. I think CMT will add it. And I said, I'd like to shoot it if you know anybody in your town that has a small town church. Well, in Nashville, it was like $1,000 to rent a church. And I'm like, I can get a church for free in Kentucky. I'm not going to pay for a church.
Yeah.
And so she ended up sending me pictures of this church, perfect church, kind of nestled in the woods. This lady owned. She let us use it for free. We went and shot about 7 hours one day, and CMT added it. Went right to #1, man. I mean, it's just dream come true, man. And the video, I love the song, but the video, man, is the only video I've ever watched of my own stuff that gave me cold chills.
Well,
and, just a powerful song.
Well, I want to kind of do a tease to all my viewers out there. We're going to show you the video of Church Pew Barstool, and you're going to have the same effect that I did, that JD has, and all of the fans that fell in love with this song. And you know, I'm almost wondering, JD, what it would be like to have the same song and actually shoot it in a bar, to see the parallels between the two settings, but with the same words. And
that's a great idea.
Yeah, and then you can end up taking them and maybe blend them back and forth. But here's the thing. One of the lines of that song that always sticks out to me, and when I hear it the first time, I literally wait to hear it a second time, and that's when you sing the part where it says, God is cool. When I hear those 3 words, I'm like, if the rest of the world will just realize that God is cool.
Amen, man.
You know, and it's that song is powerful in its own way, and I think it reaches, you know, everybody. I don't care if you're a church goer, if you're not. I think everybody can relate to this song.
I've said the same thing. I'm so glad I got to record it. Mark and Marty and Jennifer Hansen, all 3 wrote that song, and I knew it was a gem when I got it. And I'm just very thankful. It's helped me. It's helped me really reach a lot of fans, and I'm looking forward to playing it, I guess, this coming summer on the road once we get a plan in mind for touring.
Well, I can't wait till all of the artists get back on the road, and I'm going to be looking at your tour schedule for next year, because if you come through Texas, I'm coming.
So, oh, man. I look forward to meeting you, man.
But I want to ask you, so what was it like when you started touring and opening up for the big acts like Miranda Lambert, for example? What was that like for the first time?
Well, you know, starting out as a college kid, teaching myself to play in a living room, then escalated to my small town church and playing little events to 50 people. Then gradually it'd get to 100 people. And it was a lot of fun and a lot of energy in those shows. But when I got the chance to open up for acts that I grew up listening to in front of like 10,000, I remember opening up for Kelly Pickler. She had just won American Idol. and she had just got off American Idol and got a deal and I think she had like a top 10 hit, Red High Heels.
Yeah.
And I got a call to open up for her Kentucky Derby week in the infield of Churchill Downs, and that's the track of Kentucky Derby. And that was a huge stepping stone for me because I had just played little college bars to half capacity, and then I got this show with her in my hometown, infield of Derby week in front of about 40,000 people. It was an adrenaline rush like you could never imagine. And I've been able to open for some of my heroes in front of crowds that were just they were so loud you couldn't even hear. You could barely hear yourself in the ears. I mean, I've been there and experienced so many great events opening for my heroes, and there's nothing like going to a show where the crowd doesn't know who you are when you step on that stage, but when you step off the stage, it's like they're chanting you. They want more. They come back to your merch table and buy your merch, and it's really cool to make fans in a 30-minute time slot. That obviously I'm doing something right if I can step on a stage where no one knows my name and sell my merch the second I'm done because they like my songs and they were able to determine if they like my music or not within a 30-minute time sec. So, I went through that a lot and was very blessed to get to do a lot of great shows.
Well, let me ask you this, because you brought up Churchill Downs. I've been there. It's such an amazing place. What is this story that I hear that you have or had some outfits displayed at Churchill Downs? What's that all about?
Well, I'll tell you a cool story. I actually proposed to my wife on the Kentucky Derby red carpet on television. That was kind of a big moment for me. But I go back home to the Derby every year. It's close to my hometown, and every year I get to do the red carpet. And the first year I got invited to do the red carpet, I don't think very many people knew who I was. So I was thinking one day, I said, I've got to do something. I've got to wear some kind of outfit where it would grab people's attention. Because I knew I was going to be, talking to the media. Some people knew who I was. Not a lot of people did. And I'm like, I want to find some way that I can get people to ask me, who is this guy? Well, I was always a big fan of Porter Wagner's jackets growing up. I loved his nudie suits. My grandfather talked about them. I saw it on country music shows. And I had the very first year, I went to Macy's and bought a white coat. And I ended up getting on Google and finding some rose patches because Derby is officially called the Run for the Roses.
Right.
And I had this coat that was custom designed with rhinestones, and I cut out roses, and I had them sewn on by a friend, and she put rhinestones all over it. It was the baddest coat you ever seen. I still have it. And I wore it to Derby that year, and I'm telling you, I had so many interviews, and David Letterman's intern interviewed me. I interviewed with so many big time media outlets, and it was all because of that jacket. And every year since, I've designed a different coat. It's just been a kind of a tradition for me and my wife. And so the Churchill Downs called me one day and says, we'd like to feature your outfits on display. And so I got to have an outfit, little display in a museum. It was pretty neat to go back and see my outfit right beside, Bob Baffert's outfit on the red carpet. The trainer that's won the Derby many times. And so Kentucky, man, it's where I like to go when I'm off the road. It's my family. It's my heritage. I have so many friends and family back home that I love to go home and play. I play up there. My biggest fan base is in Kentucky. So Kentucky's very near and dear to my heart. When I found out the first of the year that I was going to be on the cover of the Kentucky Tourism Guide, I was blown away. They selected me. I mean, there's so many artists in the state that have had much more success than I have. And there's artists that flood that state that play music. And for them to pick me to represent our great Commonwealth, it was one of the highlights of my life. It was just a dream come true. And so, that's being on the cover of the Tourism Guide and on the cover of the Kentucky Visitors Guide as well is just, man, it's helped me meet so many fans. People that stop at rest areas in Kentucky that are on 65 or may stay in a hotel, they're going to see this magazine. And it's just grown my fan base, and I've always been grateful for it. And I just love to go back home when I'm off the road and back to the farm. It's the greatest place in the world.
Well, we're getting ready to show a Church Pew Barstool music video for all of my viewers out there to finally see it and absorb it and just fall in love with it like I did. What does the future hold for J.D. Shelburne?
Well, man, I'm going to continue to tour. I've always been the king of the road. I'll always put out new music. I have a new record that's coming out. I expect 2021 to be probably the biggest year of my career. 2020 was going to be huge. I lost 73 shows because of COVID. So I'm anticipating 2021 will be geared up to probably be the most busiest year of my career. over the last 3 years, man, I've played about 700 shows. It's just been pandemonium craziness on the road, meeting fans and playing songs. And now I have a new record on the horizon. It's about to release. And, we're just geared up. I think all my fans have been sitting inside for 6 months. So I think they're just as happy as we are. So, I'm looking forward. I still have a lot more goals to achieve. I'm wanting to play the Grand Ole Opry. I've never played the Opry. So other things I want to achieve, some more mainstream radio success, and just keep building the fan base, man. At the end of the day, I tell people you can buy Facebook likes, you can buy Spotify streams, you can buy lots of things on the internet, but you cannot buy real fans.